And now TSPN presents Open Mic Friday with Mike Spence and Sutter.
Well, it's Open Mic Friday again, and we have an incredible guest, hard guest to get, Dr. Brad Chu over at Sutter Amador Hospital. This is kind of out of your comfort zone. Thank you for coming on the show, Brad.
You're welcome, Mike.
You know, this is great to have faces who we see around Amador County who are really special parts of the community, and you're probably used to seeing Dr. Brad out there on the football fields for all the football games. Argonaut and Amador, or you just do Argonaut?
Just Argonaut,
Argonaut mostly. But you do all the physicals every year for the kids up there at the high school and volunteer
Sports
a lot
physicals.
of your time. And, you know, you came to Amador County quite a while ago. You've been here for quite some time.
Yeah,
How long have you
23 years now.
23 years. Wow, you've got me doubled and quite some over that, even more than doubled. That's quite a long time ago. Where did you go to school, and how did you end up in Amador County?
I grew up in Southern California. Obviously, you go through grade school, high school. Went to college there as well, UC Riverside, undergrad, and UCLA med school.
Oh, UCLA, you must have seen quite a bit of medical activity down there.
Oh yeah, LA, it's quite a busy place. And did my year of training at Martin Luther King, which is kind of in South Central LA, so definitely got a good exposure to trauma and everything. But once training was done, I knew I didn't want to stay in Southern California. I wanted to kind of get out of there to more open space and an area where provided to me to be able to do things that I like to do.
Yeah, we're both upcountry guys. Right. It's nice to be kind of out of the main part of the town. Have you ever thought about moving closer to the hospital, being in the emergency room? I mean, you must be running down there all the time. Have you ever thought you might have to go down the hill and live a little closer to the hospital?
Personally, no, but my wife would kind of like it. She's kind of getting tired of the snow and all, but our kids are almost out of high school, so there's considerations there. I'm resisting as much as I can.
Well, speaking of your wife, Vicki, another doctor at Sutter Amador Hospital. That's an unusual coupling to have husband and wife, both doctors at the hospital. Do they ever get confused when they call for Dr. Chu in an emergency?
Well, when we first got here, there was definitely something they were really happy about, getting an ER doc and an anesthesiologist. For the last, though, probably, I don't know, 8 years or so, she's been working just at the surgery center.
Right.
So she doesn't really
anesthesiology.
Yeah, she's an anesthesiologist, right? So she does all of her time there. Doesn't work at the hospital anymore. But they just partnered. The hospital and the surgery center have just now partnered, and so it should be beneficial for both sides.
Well, it's a new surgery center. I understand they've remodeled it, or what's happening? I know there's been some changes both at the surgery center and the emergency room at the hospital. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the surgery center? How has that changed in the new facility?
No, facility is the same. It's just the like I say, who runs it now. They've partnered. Sutter and previously the surgery center was owned and run by just a group of physicians from the community. They finally, over the years, have come together, and now it's a partnership. It should be beneficial for both sides because we'll have increased patient volume there, and it's all one entity, contiguous with with the care from the hospital and
a lot of
and the
positive changes there.
Yeah, so it should be beneficial all around.
Well, I missed the fundraiser at the Jackson Rancheria a few months back for the emergency room. I know you guys are making a lot of changes to the emergency room, and it was kind of a costume party, and I'm not really big with costumes. I ended up going to like Oktoberfest to cover it for TSPN. I had the choice.
Had to do that, right?
Actually, I wanted to go to the hospital thing, but there was another engagement that night. But that was an important fundraiser, and you guys were successful enough over the years to do the new emergency room facility. How's that changed?
Well, we used to be just 6 beds. And now we've upgraded to 11 beds, much bigger area, and we have 3 triage rooms in addition, so allow us to really try to move patients through a lot quicker. And the old adage, you build it, they will come. The volume has definitely picked up in the last last month.
You see a lot of real life activity in the emergency room. I mean, when you say triage, it can be pretty heavy duty in there, pretty stressful. You seem like you're always relaxed. How do you manage all the stress of that type of work?
I think you have to be wired that way, to go into it. I mean, that's kind of, I think you got to like the excitement, you got to like the adrenaline rush. But yeah, definitely stressful at times, and But you know, it's definitely a positive thing for the community. We've necessarily grown, and so it should be a good
Well,
thing.
it saved my life. I always tell the story about Dr. Hartman saved my life, but I actually ended up in the emergency room with a kind of a branch, an oak branch, got stuck in my bone in my ankle, and I let it go. I did the stoic thing for a couple of weeks, and my leg started getting bigger and bigger until I couldn't hardly walk on it. And then I went over to West Point to take a look at a horse with my wife, and I got on the horse. I rode it about 100 feet, got off, and I'm walking the horse back, and the owner said, "Something wrong with the horse?" I said, "No, I think there's something wrong with me, and I think I'm having either a heart attack or something. I need to get to the emergency." And we went down to the emergency room, and the doctor took a look at me and said, "Oh no, we better get you an ultrasound." But the lady who did the ultrasounds had already left for the day, and they called her. She came back into the parking lot, came into the hospital, and took a look at me and says, "You know, I'm going to go get my purse out of the car. I'll be right back. We're going to do this test." And it turned out I had a blood clot. It was heading up into my lungs. And the emergency room doctor, not yourself, but someone with a nice manner, he told me when I came back, and I had the kids there and my wife, he said, "Well, did you get the good news from the tests?" I said, "No, I didn't get any of the good news." He said, "That's right, there isn't any. You're headed for intensive care." I was in for like 5 days. But Dr. Hartman, that's how I got Dr. Hartman. That was the luckiest day of my life, getting Dr. Hartman.
Yeah,
and fortunately, I was
guy.
fine, and he took care of it, and he was great with the kids. And it was an interesting experience, because if I hadn't gone in when I did to the emergency, and the hospital is just so brand new and clean, and I just had a great, it was a hospital experience. How great can that be?
Yeah,
it was scary for the whole family. But with Dr. Hartman and everything there in the emergency room situation, I couldn't have asked for a better. And I just, moved to Amador County. I was thinking, do I need to be medevac down to Stanford?
Up here in the hills.
Are these guys doctors of, what kind of doctors are they? And I was incredibly impressed, like with everything else, with the schools and everything else. When you come to Amador County and you're brand new to the area, you always have those questions.
You're not sure, right?
And you learn, how great our facilities are in Sutter Amador Hospital. And we're going to be having a butter break, and we spin the wheel for a prize just to let you know what's coming up. And we'll talk about some personal stuff in the next half of the show. But it's just really important to, I did the diabetes fair. I covered that over at the hospital recently, and that was a really interesting event, to see how you bring the patients from the community and just general people into the hospital and educate them as to, all the important things with, controlling their diabetes and, food intake. And, people don't normally look at every label when they're buying a product in the store and being label conscious and eating right and, controlling all those different types of things. And we have all sorts of hospital activities, with that new surgery center. We just have to get the cameras over there and do something special and bring our viewers, a closer look in terms of, not only what's going on over there at the hospital, but the people. That's the most important thing, is to see the faces. And when people see you out there on the football field, they know that you're not just doing the games, that you're actually working on other stressful things at the hospital and more important things. But I want you to stay tuned, because we're coming back with Butter for the Butter Break. She's a big star. She has her name part of the show. And with Dr. Brad Shue. And stay tuned.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.